What's up guys, my name is Richard. Today I wanted to share my long-term investment plan and how I plan to retire with Bitcoin and yield farming in this video. This is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my own plan and hopefully you develop your own plan based on your own strategies and your own investment outlook. So here you can see my open DeFi yield farming positions. I'm expected to make roughly $2,000 to $3,000 a month based on this current portfolio, which is an average of roughly 44% APR. I'm beating impermanent loss and I'm at a net crypto profit, and this profit and loss dollar terms is not that accurate because it measures like when you deposit the tokens and what it is worth right now, and that number fluctuates pretty wildly. If I look at my Ethereum profit, I'm in nice profit right now with my open positions, and this value is more constant because a lot of these pools use Ethereum as a quote asset. You can see my portfolio over time. At the low point last year is roughly $54,000, $50,000, and my low point this year is roughly $66,000. And right now it's hovering at 88,000. So you can see my portfolio is doing decently well, especially considering how hard altcoins retrace and how hard Ethereum retrace. But I wanted to show you this just to show you like the annual returns I'm expecting with my portfolio if we measure from like the low to the low, right? So let's just use $75,000 compared to $53,000. So 75,000 minus 53,000, that's 22,000. And if we divide by 53,000, that's roughly a 42% increase from the low point to the low point. Pretty great returns, and especially because I took out roughly $15,000 last year to pay for my expenses and traveling. And this number is going to be very important on the next part. So this is a good investment calculator. I will include the link in the description, but basically you could enter your age here. I'm under 30, so I'm just gonna put 30. Let's say I plan to retire or achieve financial freedom in roughly 10 years. Right now, my DeFi portfolio is worth roughly 85,000. I put 0 here because I wanna add my return down here so it actually compounds over time. So I'm not contributing any more additional capital from my bank account. I'm mainly using DeFi investment to invest into other DeFi investment. So let's just use 25% of real return compared to the 41% that we just looked at. And I typically want to use real return here to not worry about inflation. So real return is basically the actual return. Let's say it's 30%, and then I minus 5% to account for inflation. So that's 25% return per year. When I hit calculate, it spits out this number here. So in 10 years, my investment would be worth roughly $1 million if these are the conditions I set, right? If I put, let's say 36% here, because 41% return that we looked at, right, minus 5% inflation, I would have almost $3 million. But I want to use 25 just to be conservative, and $1 million is enough for me to retire using DeFi for sure, but definitely also using traditional investments. So I live in Asia and my living expense is not that high compared to a lot of people. And with $1 million, I could comfortably retire with a 3% return. So I would earn $30,000 a year just passively if I have a 3% return. And 3% return is pretty easy to achieve with like stuff like S&P 500 and dividend stock ETFs. So if this passive income is greater than my annual expense, then I'm considered financially free or able to retire because I don't have to work if I don't want to, and all my passive income would pretty much cover all of my expense without needing to worry about withdrawing a lot of my initial capital. And let's just run like another scenario using my Bitcoin portfolio. And before we do that, I asked ChatGPT what's the CAGR. CAGR is like the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin. You can see based on the past 10 years data, it's roughly 81%. Last 5 years, 64%. and the last 3 years is roughly 27%. And because Bitcoin has been maturing, you could probably expect a diminishing return. So 81 to 64, I'm expecting maybe roughly 50 to 40% right now if the bull market continues. But again, I want to use conservative numbers. Let's just say 20%. So my Bitcoin investment is a longer term time horizon investment. Let's say I'm 30. I want to retire at 50. Currently, I only have roughly $2,100 in Bitcoin. And that's also one of my biggest regret is not dollar cost averaging into more Bitcoin because Bitcoin has been so strong this cycle. And I plan to roughly buy $500 worth of Bitcoin every month from my yield farming profits. If I expect my annual return to be roughly 20%, then you can see by the time I'm 50, I would have $1.66 million. So that's in today's dollars, right? If I expect a 25% compound annual growth rate and I budget 5% for inflation, I want to key in 20% here. And if I expand the time horizon to 65, then this number would get pretty nutty at $33 million. So that's the beauty of compounded growth. The longer you could stay invested, and as long as the asset is growing over time, you could end up with a lot of money. And a lot of these concepts are from personal finance, right? Let's say I have the same exact parameters, 30 to 65. I have roughly $50,000 right now in my stocks account. Again, if I contribute only $500 monthly, and my annual return, let's say we drop it to 7%, then by the time I'm 65, I would expect roughly $1.5 million in today's term, which would most likely be enough to cover my expenses. Again, this number, retirement number for everybody is different, but a simple formula to calculate is basically your annual expense divided by a return rate. And for like safer return rate, I usually like to use 3%. So let's say my annual expense is $30,000. I divide it by 0.03. That's $1 million, right? That's how I got the $1 million retirement number in the first place. And you guys can play with this, right? Let's say your annual expense is $50,000. You want to divide it by 0.03, that's 1.66 million. And the lower your expense is, the earlier you can retire. Let's say I only have $15,000 worth of expense because I live in Thailand or something. I divide it by 0.03, then I only need $500,000 to retire. So as long as I'm able to generate and withdraw a net 3% on my investment, then I could basically live on this money forever. And your own numbers might be different, right? For example, you could be making a lot more money than I am from your job, and you're able to contribute like, let's say $2,000 per month to your investment. Then obviously with only 7% annual return, you would end up with much more than I would. But that's the simple math behind it. I hope you guys got some value out of it. And personally, I find yield farming with concentrated liquidity pools is one of the best ways to earn passive income and make money from crypto. That's why I made a lot of these videos. Hopefully it helps you guys to become a better yield farmer. There are a lot of things to learn to make sure that you don't lose money over the long term. So be sure to check these out. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.